Episode 200 to the surprise of no one. But that's not really a bad thing. Hey, what's going on, you guys? My name is the Raptor, and I am predicting again. Did anyone miss me? Anyone? Next time on Death Battle, we have Ruby Rose from RWBY going up against Maka Albarn from Soul Eater. And yes, your ears did not deceive you. This is going to be episode 200 of Death Battle, at least factoring in all the officially counted episodes, because there are some bonus ones. But even still, that's just crazy to think about. And yes, to clear up any confusion, this was originally supposed to be Ash vs. Yugi, as outlined by the Kickstarter way back when. And we're still getting that one, so don't worry about that, but they just want a little more time to work on it, so we're getting this one instead. And honestly, this always felt like the more appropriate matchup for episode 200, at least to me. I remember way back when, before Rooster Teeth even shut down, this was the main prediction that I made for episode 200 in a video, so it's pretty cool to be retroactively validated like that, you know what I mean? But either way, it's all cool. It's also not going to be the episode that Torian works on, which does surprise me a little bit at this point, but now I'm even more excited to see what he does work on. And this would have been one of my most wanted death battles. I only say would have because, it's been confirmed for a while, but it probably would have been like top 30 or something. So really, I have no reason to complain about this at all. I'm just really, really excited. So as usual, let's start with the areas that these characters are decently equal in. Stuff like skill, experience, fighting ability can definitely be argued in various ways, but aren't going to make that big of a difference, at least not compared to everything else. And some of their more basic powers like aerial maneuverability, enhancing physical power and senses, etc., match up pretty well too. You could also make a solid case for them being around the same as each other in terms of speed. Both RWBY and Maka have some feats or scaling that put them anywhere from relativistic to faster than light, depending on how you look at it, such as dodging a light beam from Penny Polendina, or comparing to Black Star catching light. Granted, RWBY's super speed semblance Petal Burst might be able to outspeed Maka at various points, but it shouldn't be anything completely overwhelming. And they also both have sights. Just felt like bringing that up. You never know who's watching these. However, while you could make the argument for relatively even speed, it's not so easy to do so regarding power output. I'm not going to try to put a specific label on either of these characters because people will always have differing opinions on that, but they should both at least be stronger than how Death Battle has analyzed these series in the past. RWBY could likely scale to a Nevermore blowing off a mountaintop, and potentially some city level feats like multiple tempests creating a storm. But Maka should at least be close to characters like Lady Arachne and Krona, who blew up a small island and opened the moon's mouth, respectively, the latter of which is estimated to be around country level. These are just some examples of many, obviously, but there's basically no equal leniency that you can give these characters that wouldn't result in Maka being a lot stronger. In order to do that, you'd basically have to skew the numbers in a different way. But as we've seen many times on Death Battle by this point, possessing more physical power doesn't necessarily give you the win automatically. And with their potentially similar speeds, a good enough set of unique abilities on RWBY's side could turn things around. We know that RWBY's aura can protect her from damage until it's overtaxed, with some light healing involved, and her semblance literally allows her to molecularly disassemble herself while moving around, so that all gives her a good deal of physical defense. She can also use her Scythe Crescent Rose as a gun and enhance those shots with electricity, ice, fire, and gravity dust, which can stun, freeze, burn, and manipulate the gravity of those it hits. But while those are useful abilities, Maka not only has even better healing and durability thanks to the Black Blood, healing and defending from some fatal wounds, but she also has some non-physical or empathic powers, such as inflicting madness. Stuff like that RWBY has powered through before after enough time and effort, but it's nothing that she can just immediately and effortlessly resist, to my knowledge. Now, surprisingly, there is one major question on either side of this debate that are pretty interpretational, but could really mess some things up. Firstly, on RWBY's side, we have the question of whether or not her Silver Eyes could affect Maka's Black Blood in the same way that it affects the Grimm. RWBY's Silver Eyes, as far as we can tell, can be activated in the presence of Grimm or Grimm DNA, and can quickly and effortlessly petrify or vaporize them. Now, I'll be honest, I'm a little torn on this working. Both Black Blood and Grimm are essentially powered by some negative emotions, but the Black Blood was artificially made and certainly isn't anywhere close to the physical makeup of the God of Darkness's creations like Grimm at all. So it really just depends on what you think the Silver Eyes specifically target. Personally, I think the origin and purpose of the Black Blood is a little too different to fall under this umbrella, but if it does work, then it means that all of Maka's Black Blood abilities are essentially meaningless. They're essentially nullified in some way. So not an insignificant portion of her powers. And on Maka's side, we have a different question regarding soul and wavelength manipulation. Maka with her scythe, Soul Eater, can sense souls, and her soul adagio move can cancel out an opponent's wavelength, which is essentially how one weaponizes their soul. And Aura in the RWBY series is pretty definitively a manifestation of the soul too, meaning it's possible that Maka might just be able to quickly weaken or even completely shut off RWBY's aura. This would be really bad for RWBY, considering that once you lose your aura, you lose all of that special protection, enhancements, and semblance. And it's not something you can just bring back lickety-split, unless we're looking at the Arrowfell power-ups from, the video game, but I'm not really confident in Death Battle doing that. I'll admit I'm a little more willing to buy this working than the Silver Eyes working on the Black Blood, especially with how often Death Battle likes to equate similar attacks and power sources whenever applicable or possible, but it is also admittedly not necessarily a surefire thing. Like, if Death Battle sees wavelength properties in Soul Eater as a big enough distinction, well, then there's not really much more to say. So at the end of the day, this matchup has some big questions, but also some pretty definitive stuff too. And laying it all out like this, I think it's pretty clear which verdict is a safer bet, which is basically the biggest thing I'm looking for. RWBY might be a little faster overall, and almost certainly is more versatile for physical combat, but Maka's own abilities lead to much greater offense, defense, and is generally just a more effective arsenal. Because again, not only do I find Maka's Soul Adagio working on RWBY's aura more likely than RWBY's Silver Eyes working on Maka's Black Blood, but I also just think it would put RWBY in a slightly worse situation than Maka would be in. Other than that, the main way I could see RWBY winning is if Death Battle leans heavy into the inconsistent feats or scaling from the RWBY manga or crossovers, both of which they have notably ignored before though, so I would stay off of that copium. Unless something crazy is really hidden here, I think I gotta cast my vote to Maka for episode 200. But of course, this is all just my 2 cents, and I'd love to hear what all of you guys have to say about it. You want to leave your opinions down in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like. Subscribe if you want to see more stuff like this too. I would really, really appreciate it. But no matter what, thank you all so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. I'm really excited for episode 200. I hope you guys are as well. And yeah, that's it for me. I will see all of you guys in the next video. Peace out.